Our goal for this lesson is for you all to know how to graph an equation using our slope intercept form. I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. We've just spent these last couple of weeks going through Unit 3. We split it into two parts, A and B. We learned how to calculate slope. We learned how to do that when given an equation, when given a graph, when given a table. Um, and then we also learned how to calculate that when given 2 points. And then we learned how to put things, we've been learning how to put things in slope intercept form. And so finally, we're going to start to use our slope intercept form to graph these things, okay? So let's go ahead and get started on this set of notes. You will find it. I'm gonna start naming these things a little bit differently for how we're gonna organize class from now on. Instead of me doing it all in the unit folder, I'll probably have like lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and have it separated that way. But let's go ahead and get started. So this is unit 4, first lesson in unit 4, lesson 1 in unit 4. We're going to be covering graphing linear equations. And like I said, the one thing you're going to learn is going to be what our essential question is. You're going to learn, or your essential question is going to be, how can I use slope intercept? Goodness, I can't spell very well. Slope intercept form to graph linear equations. And if you're wondering, a linear equation is just the equation of a line. Linear means line. That's like the root of this word, line. Line AR. So a linear equation is just the equation of a line. So by the end of this lesson, you will know how to use slope intercept form to graph a linear equation. So now let's think back. Recall that what our slope intercept form of a line is. If you don't remember, let's go ahead and put that in bright pink letters for you. Our slope intercept form of an equation is y equals mx plus b. All right, and I actually want to see if I can put these all in different colors. Actually, I'll just circle them in different colors later. But our slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So when we're going to do this, our steps to determine the slope and the y-intercept, first, we are going to solve the equation for y. We're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So first is to solve, step 1 is to solve the equation for y, which means we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. Now, when you go to solve it for y, we don't want it to be y equals our constant term plus our mx term. We don't want it to be y equals b plus mx. We want it to be in this form. Oops. In this y equals mx plus b form. That's what we mean when we say solve for y, all right? Once you've done that, the coefficient of x is our slope. The coefficient of x, and if you don't remember, our coefficient is the number next to x. All right, that's what our coefficient is. The coefficient of x is our slope. So our coefficient is m. That's going to be the number next to x. That's our slope. And then the constant term is just the number that's by itself, is what's called the y-intercept. Okay, that's that B. That's what that B stands for. B stands for y-intercept, all right? So let's look at a few examples. Our directions say, what are the slope and y-intercept of the following? So when we look at this one, we see here our coefficient of x is this 3. Our number next to x is this 3. Let me circle that in. I'll stick with purple for my slope and hot pink for my intercept. So this number here is my slope. That's going to be 3. And then my y-intercept is going to be the constant term. Now we do have a 5 here, but remember, we need to also bring this sign along with it, okay? That negative goes with that 5. So our y-intercept is going to be negative 5, all right? Now let's look at number 2. Number 2, we're still looking for the same thing. It says, what are the slope and y-intercepts of the following? This gives us 5x plus 2y equals negative 4. Remember, when we're trying to figure out what the slope and the y-intercept are, we have some steps above. First, we're going to solve the equation for y. We didn't have to do that in the first problem because it was already in slope-intercept form. But in this second problem, we're going to have to do that. So to solve for y, this y is going to stay on the side by itself. I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides minus 5x. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit to make it easier to write. There we go. Minus 5x, that goes to 0. And what I have on this side, I can't subtract 5x from 4 because those are not like terms. And so what I end up with is going to be this 2y is equal to negative 5x. Since I want to keep this in my slope-intercept form, I'm going to write that x value first, that 5x, negative 5x. I'm going to write that first, and I'm going to bring down everything else, minus 4, all right? And I'm going to move this over here so I have more space to work. So now that I'm at this 2y is equal to negative 5x. I'm still not done because this y is not by itself. We have not completely solved for y. So I'm going to divide by 2 on this side and divide by 2 on the right side as well. So divide by 2 on both sides. I like writing it out like this. I think I had a student show me doing it this way. And I like it because you can see you can also just write it like this all over 2, but you also have to remember that this 5x is divided by 2 and this negative 4 is also divided by 2. And what you get once you do that is you get this y equals, where's my y? Y equals negative 5x over 2 is just going to be that same thing. Those can't reduce at all. Negative 5 over 2. And my x always goes on the outside. And then this negative 4 divided by 2 is going to give me a negative 2. All right. So now we have solved this equation and put it in slope-intercept form. Our coefficient, and actually change this color since I'm using this color. Our coefficient, I don't like having that as black because it's hard to tell what's different. Let's make that something else. Come on. This yellow. If that yellow was hard to see, let me know. I know you all said some of the colors were hard to see. Hopefully that one's not too bad. Actually, I'll just make it red. I know you all be able to see that one. All right. So now that we have this thing in slope-intercept form, remember it says up here that our coefficient, that didn't work out well. Our coefficient of x is our slope, which is our m. So I'm going to write it out this way. My slope is going to be m equals negative 5 over 2. And we don't write that x with it. That x is not part of our answer. It's just going to be a negative 5 over 2. If I could reduce this, then I would, but I can't in this case. And then our y-intercept, the constant is the y-intercept, which is our b in our slope-intercept form. You see the placement here is the same as the placement here. That's going to be negative 2. All right. And the way we're going to write this, when you write your intercepts, this is the value of it. Our b is equal to negative 2. Let me write it that way. B equals negative 2. Okay. Now, when you write out your intercepts, your x-intercepts and your y-intercepts, they need to be written as ordered pairs. So I'm going to go ahead through and write this. When you're writing out your y-intercept, you don't have a 0 or you don't have an x, so that's going to be 0, and then it's going to be your value. So this one's going to be 0, 2, and then I skipped it on this one, so let's go back to number 1 and do that one. This one's going to be 0, negative 5. All right. It's going to be my b equals. All right. Now, when we're looking at graphing linear equations, our steps for this one, our first step is going to be to write the equation in slope-intercept form. Oh, it has form right now. Write it in slope-intercept form, which is going to be that y equals mx plus b. So in case you don't remember, y equals mx plus b. Write it in slope-intercept form. Then we're going to identify the slope, okay? We're going to identify the slope. The slope is once again our m, and it's also our coefficient of x, okay? Our coefficient of x. So we're going to identify the slope, and we're also going to, oh, that's the wrong color. First, that should be in purple. So we're going to identify the slope after we have written it in slope-intercept form. We're going to identify the slope, which is our coefficient of x, the number next to x, and we're going to identify our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is that b value, okay? Which is the constant term. Our y-intercept here is the b value. That's going to, so our first step is to write the form or write the equation in slope-intercept form. Second step is to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Our third step is going to be to graph the y-intercept. So that's going to be to plot our point on our y-axis, since that's our y-intercept. And then our fourth point is going to be to, from the y-intercept, use our slope. Let me change the colors. Use our slope, which is our m, to find two more points. Once we have done that, we're going to draw a line. Oops. Draw a line, okay? So to shorten that all up, I'm going to just throw it out in the type in this bubble here. We're going to start with, we're going to start the whole thing with our b, which is our slope intercept. And we're going to move with m, which is our slope. All right. So let's look at a couple examples. Number one says, graph the equation y equals 2x plus 3. So with this, my first step is to make sure it's in slope intercept form, which is right here, y equals mx plus b. This one is in slope intercept form, so I'm going to move on to my next step. Identify the slope and the y-intercept. All right, so my slope is my coefficient of x, which is this number here, this 2. And then my y-intercept is this 3, okay? So I've identified my slope and my y-intercept. And then from the y-intercept, we're going to use our slope to find two more points. So now we have our y-intercept. We're going to start off. So this is our y-axis here, in case you all don't remember. This is our x. Our y-axis is going up and down. We're going to start at 0, and we're going to go to 3 on our y-axis. 1, 2, 3. That's why it's called our intercept, our y-intercept, because we start on the y-axis. So once we're here at 3, we're going to use our slope to move. Mr. Williams, how do we use our slope to move? I'm glad you asked. The way we're going to do this, remember, our slope is our rise over run, okay? So once again, little reminder, I'm going to type it off to the side here. Slope Actually, I'm going to write it in a different one. Slope is going to be rise over run. Okay, rise over run. So when we look at this equation here, this 2x, we have 2 as our slope. I'll write it here. M equals 2, and that's supposed to be our rise over our run. In any point, any case where we don't have a number underneath as our denominator, or we just have a whole number, we always know that's going to be a 1 under there. So here we have 2 is our rise and 1 is our run. So to plot this slope, we're going to rise 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to run 1, 1. So that's going to be our new point. And we're going to do it again. Rise 2, 1, 2, run once. There we go. Now we have plotted 2 points, okay? And now we can draw a line. Drawing a line, especially on Cami, don't try to freehand it. It's going to be a chore if you try to freehand it. I recommend you use the picture tool and you just put a line from the start to the finish. That's how I'm going to do it every time. That way they all look right. And since these are lines, they need arrowheads, okay? They need arrowheads. If you don't do it electronically, I understand, but if you're writing this on paper, I need to see those arrowheads. That's a very important part. All right, number 2, our second example says graph the equation. This one, when we look at our steps, our first step says to write the equation in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Is this in slope-intercept form? Does this look like y equals mx plus b? Nah, not even close. It has 2y plus 4x. Our y and our x are on the same side. We can't do this. We need to solve for y first, all right? So let's begin the process of solving for y. You guys are probably experts at this. You subtract this 4x from both sides. Minus 4. Actually, I think I started doing these in red. Minus 4x here. On that side, minus 4x. And I'm going to write my next step right there instead of where it was, right, or instead of right underneath it. What I end up with is this 2y equals 4x. So now I have this 2y equals 4x. This y still not by itself. I need to divide by 2 on both sides. So divided by 2, divide by 2. And finally, what we have is going to be this y equals 4x over 2. I'm not just going to leave it as 4x over 2 because we can reduce this. This can be simplified. I want to write this in simplest form. So this is going to be 4 over 2. It's just going to be 2. So it's going to be 2x. Do we have a b in this equation? We do not. This would be a plus 0. We don't have anything there. You don't have to type in that plus 0, but that may help you all get started. So now that we have this thing in slope-intercept form, we're going to find our slope and our y-intercept. So my slope in this case is going to be the coefficient of x, which is right here, this 2. And then my y-intercept is going to be this 0. So I'm going to plot my y-intercept. That's going to be right here at 0. And then I'm going to find my next 2 points by doing what my slope says. Remember, slope is rise over run. We had 2 as our last example. Slope being rise over run. With slope being 2, we don't have a run explicitly written, but we know it's going to be this 2 over 1 again. So we're going to rise 2 and run 1. Rise 1, 2, run 1. And then you plot your point after you have done what your slope says to do. This one says rise 2, run 1. We're going to start at our slope intercept, rise 2, run 1, put a point. Do it again. Rise 2, 1, 2. Then run once, go to the side once, and put a point. And for the heck of it, since we have the space, let's do it again. Rise 2, go up 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, and then go once to the right, 1. There we go. Once you have that, you can go to that shapes tool over here and then click on insert line, which is going to be that fourth option underneath the triangle. Click on one point, drag the line all the way to the other point, and you're good to go. All right. Typically, we'd have you all draw on the arrows, but doing that on Cami takes quite a while. So graph the following equations. I do believe that since I've done the first two, you all can do these two. The y equals negative x plus 2 and y equals 2/3 x minus 1. I do believe you all can do that on your own. If you run into any issues, come back to the Zoom chat and let me know. All right. So do that and turn that part in. Now, here's a little tip for things like this. With horizontal lines, our slope is, and I'm going to write this one in red because this is kind of important. I saw this a lot on the test. You guys kind of confused this a little bit. Our slope is 0 with horizontal lines. Now think about a horizontal line. You may not know what horizontal means. It means, it's the way I think about it is like the horizon. You see how the horizon is flat across. That's a flat line. That's a straight line. It's like a street, pretty straight typically. So horizontal lines have a slope of 0, and the equation of a horizontal line is going to be y equals whatever that number is. So y equals some kind of number. It could be 6, it could be 8, it could be 2. I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to put that in the equation editor. Y equals a number. That's going to be the equation of a horizontal line with a slope of 0. Our vertical line, the slope is undefined. Undefined. I had a lot of students typing unidentified. While I know what you mean when you do that, the correct word is undefined. 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 And the equation of those, the equation of an undefined line is going to be x is equal to a number, whatever that number might be. All right. So with a slope of 0, we have our y is equal to a number. And with the slope being undefined, going up and down, vertical means up and down. So if you remember horizontal means side to side, then you can kind of remember that the other one is just going to be up and down, and that's going to be vertical. Vertical lines, that slope is going to be undefined. And the equation of that is going to be x is equal to a number. All right, and here's a little trick thing that I've seen. Hoy Vux. HOY. H stands for horizontal. HORIZONTAL. The 0 here, this O here is a 0. And that's going to be what our slope is. Our 0 is our slope. Oops, I should write that going straight down. Control Z, S, L, O, P, E. And this is when y is equal to a number. All right. VUX, VVVVV is for vertical. It's a vertical line. Let me make this I a little bit more identifiable. Vertical line. This U is gonna stand for undefined. Undefined, not identified. Undefined. Oh goodness. Undefined slope. And when you all are doing this, you can type this part out. You don't have to write it out the way I'm doing it. Not quite sure why I'm not just typing it. Oh, because I wanted to do it in a specific order. That's why. X is going to be equal to a number. So vertical lines have X equal to a number. Horizontal lines have Y equal to a number. All right. So knowing that right there, I want you all to also go through, do these last 3. When you have these equations, tell me what the slope is and draw a picture of what these graphs say. So draw a picture of x equals -3 and y equals 2 and x equals 4, okay? Once you're done with all of that, come on down here to the summary. Go ahead, just kind of give a brief summary of what it is you learned. If there was anything new that you picked up, go ahead and throw that in here. If there was a spot that you're still stuck at or got stuck at for a little bit and had to come ask for help, also put that in here, okay? Once you finish this, come on back to the Zoom and we will have another activity, okay? Once again, if you have questions, ask them. It's very important that you ask them so that I know that you have questions and I can address it, all right?